The morning sun hadn't yet fully broken over the training base, but the barracks were already alive with the hum of anxious recruits. Boots pounded on concrete as young men and women ran formation drills, their uniforms crisp, their faces a mix of nerves and determination. Among them, Maya appeared almost out of place. Her jacket was torn, the sleeves frayed, and dirt clung stubbornly to the fabric. Whispers began the moment she stepped onto the parade ground. "Look at that," one recruit muttered. "Does she even belong here?" another snickered. "Bet she can't make it past day one." Maya didn't flinch. Her dark eyes scanned the scene, unshaken by judgment or the chorus of sneers around her. She adjusted the strap of her pack and kept moving, boots landing firmly, her posture unyielding. It wasn't arrogance, it was confidence carved from years of relentless discipline. Her very presence commanded attention, though none of the recruits understood why. The drill instructors barked orders, and the cacophony of voices collided with the clatter of equipment. Recruits scrambled to respond, fumbling with backpacks, helmets, and muddy boots. Maya followed with a quiet precision, her movements deliberate, almost surgical. She adjusted a fallen helmet for a nearby recruit without a word, her hands steady and sure. A small, knowing smile tugged at the corner of her mouth, unnoticed amid the chaos. Laughter and whispered judgments lingered around her like static electricity. "What's with the jacket?" a recruit whispered, nudging another. "Looks like she slept in the mud." "I bet she's never even touched a rope in her life," the second replied. Maya heard none of it, but she noticed everything. Her eyes flicked briefly to the tallest, loudest recruit, a young man clearly trying to assert dominance. He sneered at her, nudged a teammate, and laughed. It was a move she recognized immediately: intimidation. She didn't respond, not yet. Instead, she allowed the tension to build, letting the others underestimate her. She had learned long ago that arrogance could cloud judgment, and pride often preceded mistakes. Her own past had taught her patience, the power of quiet observation, and the advantage of being underestimated. Maya had completed training that would break most people, missions that would haunt many for life. She carried those experiences beneath her jacket, a secret weapon no one could yet see. As the recruits lined up for their first formation, Maya moved with careful precision to her designated spot, her steps measured and confident. The drill instructor's voice cut through the morning air. "Eyes forward, attitude straight, I want precision, not excuses." The recruits snapped into posture, but a few kept sneaking glances at the new girl. She stood taller than most, her chin level, shoulders back, a silent challenge in her calm gaze. The whispers continued, but there was now a note of uncertainty creeping in. Something about her didn't fit the stereotype of a nervous, overwhelmed recruit. She wasn't trying to impress. She wasn't seeking attention. And yet, every movement she made seemed to radiate authority. Then came the first test of the morning, a simple endurance run around the base designed to separate the strong from the weak. Recruits surged forward, muscles straining, lungs burning. Maya fell into rhythm instantly, her pace steady and unrelenting. Her torn jacket flapped behind her, drawing eyes and initially ridicule. "She looks ridiculous," someone huffed. But as minutes passed, her form remained flawless, her breathing controlled, her energy seeming inexhaustible. By the time she crossed the finish line, mud-streaked and sweat-soaked, the laughter had mostly faded. Eyes widened. The murmur of disbelief began to replace derision. Some recruits exchanged uneasy glances, questioning their own assumptions. Maya, for her part, didn't celebrate or respond. She simply adjusted her jacket, straightened her posture, and waited for the next challenge. It was then, in that quiet pause between drills, that a subtle shift occurred. The recruits who had mocked her were now watching more closely. The air was charged with curiosity and tension. They didn't know her story, her past, or the secrets hidden beneath that ragged jacket. And Maya, as always, remained perfectly still, allowing the silence to speak louder than words ever could. She had come here to train, yes, but she had also come to command respect, and she would do it quietly, efficiently, and lethally. The first day had just begun, and already the recruits were beginning to understand. Maya was no ordinary recruit. And the world would soon see exactly why. The morning sun climbed higher, glinting off the metal rails and concrete of the SEAL training base. Recruits gathered for their first real test, an obstacle course designed to break the unprepared, to expose weakness and indecision. Mud pits, rope climbs, wall hurdles, every challenge was meant to push them to the edge. Maya stepped up to the start line, her torn jacket clinging to her, streaked with dirt and sweat from the earlier drills. Other recruits shot sideways glances, shaking their heads or smirking. "This is going to be easy," one muttered, loud enough for her to hear. Another whispered, "She won't make it past the wall climb." Maya didn't reply. She didn't need to. Every fiber of her body told her she was already ahead of them. The whistle blew and chaos erupted. Bodies surged forward, boots slipping in mud, hands grabbing ropes, some tripping over uneven ground. Maya moved with uncanny precision. Every stride was purposeful, every grip on rope and wall controlled. Where others flailed, she flowed. She helped a struggling recruit over a slippery wall without hesitation, a brief touch that seemed effortless but saved him from a nasty fall. By the second obstacle, the whispers had changed tone. "How is she?" one recruit stammered. "She's fast, stronger than most of us." Eyes followed her every move, a mix of curiosity and disbelief. Maya's endurance seemed limitless, her focus unwavering. She didn't brag or taunt, she simply kept moving, each obstacle overcome with a quiet grace that unnerved the others. During the rope climb, a tall recruit tried to push past her, attempting to intimidate the new girl. His hand nudged her shoulder, expecting resistance. Instead, Maya barely registered the touch. She adjusted her grip, swung smoothly, and continued upward, finishing several seconds before him. The rope seemed almost too slow for her, as if it couldn't keep up with the rhythm of her movements. A few recruits stopped mid-climb, jaws tightening, realizing this was no ordinary trainee. As the course continued, sweat poured down her face, but her breathing remained calm, controlled. Where others gasped, Maya's chest rose and fell like a metronome. In the mud pit, her arms pushed against the sticky earth with deliberate force, hauling herself through the muck without losing a second. She glanced at the recruits struggling beside her. Some were angry, some were intimidated, but all were watching now. Even the loudest skeptics had stopped mocking. By the time they reached the final wall, recruits were exhausted, muscles trembling, faces streaked with mud and frustration. Maya approached the wall with the same steady focus. Her hands gripped the rough wood, her legs pushed with coordinated precision. In moments she was over, landing with barely a splash of mud. The other recruits followed, slower, clumsier, their confidence shaken. Murmurs rippled through the group. "Who is she?" "She's insane." "No, she's trained." The drill instructor barked, voice sharp as a knife. "Form up, now!" The recruits lined up, gasping, shaking, but their eyes were on Maya. Even the instructors exchanged subtle glances, nodding her composure under strain. Where others faltered, she had thrived. Where others panicked, she had remained untouchable. The torn jacket, once a symbol of weakness in their eyes, now seemed almost ironic, a camouflage for her skill, a distraction for the naive. As the recruits caught their breath, Maya remained silent, surveying the group with quiet assessment. The whispers were gone, in their place was cautious curiosity. Some recruits who had mocked her were now hesitant, unsure how to approach her. Others, eyes wide with admiration, exchanged quiet comments about her strength. She had already turned the tide of perception, without a word, without a show of force. And yet, beneath her calm exterior, Maya knew this was only the beginning. This course had tested endurance, strength, and focus, but it had not tested cunning, strategy, or resolve under fire, the real trials that lay ahead. She allowed herself a faint smile. The others still didn't know her secret, and when they did, nothing would be the same. The recruits had underestimated her, and that would be their first mistake. By the third day of training, the recruits were already bruised, sore, and questioning their own limits. The sun hung high, relentless, as a new drill began, a team-based tactical exercise designed to test leadership, coordination, and split-second decision-making. Recruits were paired into squads, given minimal instructions, and dropped into a simulated hostile environment filled with obstacles, hidden traps, and enemy targets. Maya walked with calm purpose, her torn jacket flapping lightly in the wind. Around her, the other recruits whispered again, this time in nervous tones. "She's always calm," one muttered. "She doesn't even break a sweat," another replied. The murmurs were half in awe, half in frustration. Several tried to assert authority over her, but Maya didn't respond. She didn't need to. Her quiet presence commanded attention without words. As the exercise began, chaos erupted. Recruits stumbled over obstacles, shouted instructions at one another, and argued over strategy. Maya, however, moved through the turmoil like a shadow, silent, precise, calculating. She guided her squad with subtle gestures, a pointed finger, a tilt of the head, a nod. Her team followed instinctively, responding to her quiet commands. Slowly, the murmurs of disbelief spread. "How is she doing that?" someone whispered, craning their neck to watch. Midway through the exercise, one recruit, eager to assert dominance, shoved past Maya, trying to grab control of the squad. "Step aside, newbie," he barked. Maya didn't flinch. With a calm, measured tone, she whispered a single instruction, just low enough for her squad to hear. Within moments, the team adjusted positions, covered blind spots, and neutralized a simulated threat before the instigator could react. The recruit froze, eyes wide in shock, realizing she had outmaneuvered him effortlessly. Behind her calm exterior, flashes of her past missions briefly surfaced in her mind. covert operations under enemy fire, deep-sea infiltration, hostage extractions in hostile territory. Each experience had honed instincts and intuition beyond what ordinary recruits could comprehend. And yet she held herself back, allowing them to believe they were catching up, when in reality she was always several steps ahead. The exercise continued, escalating in difficulty. Hidden tripwires, simulated gunfire, and sudden ambushes tested every recruit's nerve. Many panicked, made mistakes, or froze under pressure. Maya remained a pillar of focus, moving with both grace and deadly precision. She corrected teammates subtly, positioned them strategically, and kept her own movements flawless. By the end of the drill, it was clear. Her squad had dominated the exercise without her ever raising her voice. As the recruits regrouped, a hush fell over the team. Those who had mocked her earlier looked down at their boots, embarrassed. Others stared at her in awe. The instigator, once confident and brash, avoided her gaze entirely. Even the drill instructors exchanged subtle, meaningful looks, recognizing that this recruit was no ordinary trainee. Maya didn't boast or seek approval. She simply stood, hands on hips, surveying the group. Her torn jacket, once a symbol of ridicule, now seemed almost ironic. It masked her experience, her lethal skill, and her calm authority. That evening, as the recruits cleaned gear and tended to scrapes and bruises, whispers of her past began to circulate. "I heard she's been in real missions," one said. "No way," another replied, eyes wide. "I saw the way she led that squad, it wasn't luck." The murmurs weren't just curiosity anymore, they were the beginnings of respect, tinged with awe. Maya didn't comment, she didn't need to. In every glance, every controlled motion, every quiet decision, she had already made her statement. The recruits had underestimated her. They had mocked her torn jacket. They had laughed at her. But now, as the sun dipped low and the base settled into night, one undeniable truth hung in the air. Maya was a force to be reckoned with. And they didn't yet know the full story. Night had settled over the training base, casting long shadows across the bunks and courtyard. The recruits, exhausted from the day's grueling exercises, gathered in small groups, swapping stories of near misses, bruises, and victories. Laughter and chatter filled the air, though beneath it lurked tension, exhaustion, and a quiet competitiveness. Maya leaned against the wall, silent, observing. Her torn jacket hung loosely, her dark eyes scanning the faces of her peers. The whispers began almost immediately. "She's too calm, it's weird. Did you see the way she moved back there, like she's done this 100 times? One tall, eager recruit leaned closer to his bunkmate. "I bet she's hiding something, no one is that good." Others nodded in nervous agreement, voices low. "Maybe she's been in combat, actual missions," someone suggested. The group fell silent for a heartbeat, the thought hanging in the air like a shadow. Maya didn't react. She had grown accustomed to whispers, assumptions, and judgments. For years, she had carried the weight of her past in silence. Every mission, every high-risk operation, every covert dive into enemy territory had sharpened her mind and honed her reflexes. She had been trained to survive, to think 2 steps ahead, and to act when others froze. And yet, here she was, underestimating eyes all around her, keeping her past hidden, letting others underestimate her. It was an advantage she had learned to wield carefully. As recruits shared their speculative stories, Maya allowed herself a brief mental review of her own history. She had joined the Navy at 18, quickly excelling in grueling physical tests, tactical exercises, and combat simulations. After selection, she had been assigned to a special unit, completing missions classified beyond public knowledge, hostage rescues in war zones, underwater sabotage, and intelligence extractions under fire. Few could endure such experiences and walk away unbroken. Even fewer could return to standard training camps and blend in unnoticed. A recruit sitting nearby made a careless joke, nudging another and whispering, "I wonder if she's ever even been in the field, probably just lucky." The others snickered. Maya's gaze swept over them quietly, unbroken and unreadable. Inside, her mind replayed the precise situations that had forged her calm, moments when hesitation meant death, when every decision was life or death. She had survived because she had learned patience, observation, and timing. And now, those lessons were ready to reveal themselves, in the right way, at the right moment. Some recruits, still unaware of her past, tried to challenge her authority in conversation, questioning decisions made during exercises earlier that day. She responded only with subtle gestures, a nod, a shift in stance, a pointed glance, and each interaction ended with the others following her direction without realizing it. Slowly, respect began to replace fear and mockery. Her quiet dominance was undeniable, even without words. The night deepened. Outside, the base lights cast eerie shadows on the walls and distant waves lapped at the shore. Inside, tension simmered quietly. A recruit finally whispered aloud, "You know, I think she's actually done missions, real missions." Others nodded slowly, disbelief and awe mingling. The whispers were no longer jokes, they were confessions of growing respect. Maya adjusted her jacket, hiding the rest of her body. Beneath the fabric lay the symbol of her past, the sealed trident tattoo she had earned after surviving missions most could only imagine. Few had seen it, and fewer still had survived the experience it represented. One day soon, that secret would emerge, and when it did, it would silence every doubt, every whisper, every assumption about her abilities. For now, she allowed the mystery to linger, letting the recruits stew in curiosity, admiration, and uncertainty. She had already begun shaping their perceptions, bending their assumptions without a word. By the end of the night, it was clear to anyone paying attention, Maya was not what she seemed. And the real story, the one that would change everything, had yet to be revealed. It was mid-morning, and the recruits lined up for inspection, uniforms pressed, eyes forward. Drill instructors moved down the rows, scrutinizing every crease, every smudge, every detail. Whispers circled as the instructors approached Maya. Her torn jacket, now almost a signature piece, had become the subject of speculation. Some recruits looked at her with lingering curiosity, others with residual skepticism. "Adjust your jacket," barked a drill instructor, his voice cutting through the chatter. Maya slowly, deliberately. The movement was casual, almost mundane, yet every eye in the formation followed her with sudden intensity. She reached the zipper at the front of the jacket and tugged it down smoothly. A sharp, collective intake of breath swept through the recruits. Beneath the jacket, sprawling across her shoulder and upper chest, was the sealed trident tattoo, the mark of the elite, the lethal, the few who had survived missions that left most broken. It was intricate, bold, unmistakable. The symbol alone carried weight. The tattoo told a story no words could convey: combat, precision, courage under fire, and survival against impossible odds. The room went silent. Laughter, whispers, and smug smirks vanished in an instant. Even the drill instructors froze, momentarily caught in recognition. Only those trained in special operations knew the significance of the trident. To see it on a recruit was almost unheard of. The sheer audacity of her presence, hidden beneath a tattered jacket, left everyone stunned. A young recruit, the one who had mocked her on day one, stared wide-eyed, his jaw slack. The words he had planned, insults, jokes, caught in his throat. All the bravado he had shown evaporated in a heartbeat. His fists clenched involuntarily, knuckles white. Maya's eyes met his with calm authority, unwavering, unflinching. No explanation, no boast. Just the quiet confidence of someone who had already conquered far greater challenges than any of them could imagine. Some recruits whispered to each other, unable to contain curiosity. "Is that a seal tattoo? She's one of them. There's no way, she's just a recruit." Even those previously dismissive now shifted uneasily in their stance, reassessing every move she had made during exercises. Every decision, every precise action, every calm maneuver suddenly made sense. The drill instructor finally regained his composure. He stepped closer, a glint of respect in his eyes hidden behind his usual stern demeanor. "Stand at attention," he commanded. Maya, posture perfect, movements controlled. The others lined up around her, tension still palpable, whispers now tinged with awe. Maya didn't speak. She didn't need to. The silence was enough. Her presence, the symbol etched into her skin, and the way she carried herself broadcast a single undeniable message. She was lethal, experienced, and beyond comparison. Those who had doubted her now understood that judgment based on appearances had been foolish. Some recruits tried to mask their awe with forced casualness. Others fidgeted, unable to look away. The mocking that had followed her from day one dissolved completely, replaced by quiet reverence. The torn jacket, once an object of ridicule, now seemed almost clever, a tool of camouflage, concealing strength, history, and lethal skill until the right moment. As the inspection ended, Maya straightened her jacket, covering the tattoo once again, allowing the moment of revelation to linger just long enough to unsettle those around her. The murmurs grew, questions forming but unspoken. Everyone knew they had witnessed something extraordinary. And Maya, the recruit once laughed at, had changed the game entirely. From that moment, no one doubted her skill, her experience, or her authority. The game of respect, unearned, assumed, or mocked, had already been decisively won. But the full extent of her capabilities, that was a story the recruits had yet to see. The morning light filtered through the training base, casting long shadows across the mud-streaked parade ground. After the shock of the tattoo reveal, the air was different, heavier, more tense, and charged with curiosity. Recruits who had previously mocked Maya now watched her every move, unsure whether to approach her, challenge her, or simply stay out of her way. The day's exercises began, a series of tactical drills, each escalating in difficulty. Teams had to navigate simulated enemy zones, transport hostages, and disarm traps scattered throughout a rugged outdoor course. The goal was simple, survival and precision, but for many recruits it was a nightmare. Panic, poor coordination, and fatigue led to mistakes. Many faltered under pressure, leaving teammates exposed to simulated enemy fire. Maya moved differently, calm, deliberate, unshakable. Her torn jacket was now almost a symbol, a quiet reminder of the lethal skill beneath the fabric. She positioned herself at the edge of the team, scanning constantly. One teammate faltered in a narrow ravine, slipping on wet rocks. Without hesitation, Maya lunged, grabbing his arm and pulling him to safety. Not a word was spoken, just a controlled, efficient motion that saved the day. Her teammates began to whisper in awe. A rival recruit, still jealous from prior exercises, attempted to take command during a simulated ambush. He barked orders, pointing aggressively at team members hopping to assert dominance. Maya didn't argue. She observed, calculating. A slight tilt of her head, a hand raised subtly, and the team shifted instantly, covering weak points, sealing gaps, and neutralizing the threat. The would-be leader froze, watching helplessly as her quiet authority his forceful gestures. The drills continued, and Maya's precision became undeniable. Every movement was calculated, every decision deliberate. She anticipated threats before they appeared, corrected mistakes without confrontation, and coordinated the team silently like a conductor leading an orchestra through chaos. By midday, even the instructors were watching more closely, nodding in quiet acknowledgement. One commented under his breath, "She's something else." In a particularly grueling exercise, the team had to transport a simulated hostage across uneven terrain under mock enemy fire. Panic set in among the recruits. Mud, exhaustion, and fear caused errors. Maya's calm voice finally broke the tension, guiding them through strategic positions, predicting hazards, and maintaining morale. Where others would shout, she whispered instructions that carried authority and clarity. The team executed flawlessly under her subtle command, finishing the drill with efficiency no one had expected. By the end of the day, the once mocking recruits had transformed. Their whispers of doubt had turned into hushed admiration. "She's incredible," one admitted quietly. "She's like a seal," another whispered, eyes wide. They realized the laughter and ridicule from day one had been naive, even foolish. Maya had already earned a level of respect most recruits took months, if not years, to achieve. Yet she didn't celebrate, didn't boast. Her calm exterior remained intact. She had done this not for recognition, but because it was necessary. Leadership wasn't about ego, it was about skill, timing, and survival. And Maya had mastered all three, silently proving her worth without once raising her voice. That evening, as the recruits cleaned gear and reflected on the day, the story of her tattoo, her moves, and her quiet commands circulated. Everyone had witnessed her strength firsthand. Some were intimidated, some inspired. But all understood one truth: Maya had changed the dynamic of the training camp completely. And in the shadows, the jealous recruit from earlier still plotted, secretly eager for a chance to challenge her. Unaware that Maya had already seen it coming, calculated it, and would be ready when the moment arrived. Her respect had been earned. Her authority was undeniable. And the next challenge, the one that would truly test her and the team, was just over the horizon. Night had fallen, thick and heavy, over the training base. The recruits had been briefed, a night navigation exercise that would push them to their limits. The terrain was unfamiliar, uneven, and dotted with simulated threats. Enemy operatives, hidden obstacles, and timed objectives were designed to expose fear, hesitation, and lack of coordination. This was no ordinary drill. It was a test of every skill, every lesson, every ounce of endurance they had learned. Maya stood silently at the edge of the formation, her torn jacket clinging slightly to her mud-smeared uniform. The trident tattoo beneath it remained hidden, a silent symbol of lethal skill and past victories. She surveyed the group calmly, noting tension, fatigue, and uncertainty among her teammates. The recruits who had doubted her were now tense, watching her like a pivot point in a storm. The whistle blew and the teams moved into the night, flashlights piercing darkness like narrow beams of hope. Maya's squad immediately encountered simulated enemy fire, sudden alarms, spotlights, and the eerie hum of training explosives. Panic set in among some recruits, their nerves fraying under the pressure. But Maya's calm voice cut through the chaos, low and precise. "Left flank, move, cover your six, watch the shadows." Her directions weren't shouted. They were commands that carried authority without volume. The team responded instinctively, shifting positions, covering blind spots and clearing obstacles. One recruit panicked, nearly tripping into a pit trap. Maya caught him mid-fall, pulling him back with effortless control. The others watched silently, all replacing fear. Every movement she made demonstrated experience beyond their comprehension. The jealous recruit, still seeking to assert dominance, tried to redirect the team, barking orders, pointing at Maya as though challenging her authority. She didn't confront him directly. Instead, a slight tilt of her head, a calculated pause, and her team followed her subtle instructions instead of his. Slowly, the tension shifted. The would-be challenger realized too late that her authority wasn't just recognized, it was undeniable. As they advanced deeper into the terrain, obstacles intensified. Narrow ravines, steep inclines, and mock enemy ambushes designed to separate and confuse. Maya anticipated each challenge, silently calculating risk, timing movements, and guiding the squad with a blend of intuition and strategy only forged in combat. A sudden simulated attack caused the squad to scatter, but Maya regrouped them instantly, positioning each recruit to neutralize threats while maintaining safety. By the midpoint of the exercise, it was clear the squad was executing flawlessly. Observers and instructors watching from afar were visibly impressed, some whispering in disbelief. She's orchestrating them like a seasoned operator. Even the previously mocking recruits now followed her lead without hesitation, trusting her instincts and judgment. The climax of the exercise approached, a timed hostage extraction across a treacherous stretch of uneven terrain. Heartbeats raced, adrenaline surged, recruits hesitated, fearing failure. Maya, calm and composed, led the squad step by step, silently signaling, anticipating every obstacle. Every recruit who had doubted her now moved with confidence, inspired by her presence and skill. Finally, they reached the extraction point. The simulated mission was a success. Every member of the squad had survived, executed flawlessly, and learned a lesson in trust, leadership, and courage. Maya stood at the edge of the clearing, observing her squad, their faces lit with the glow of flashlights and exhilaration. The whispers that had once doubted her now carried awe and respect. Even the jealous recruit, humbled and silent, understood the truth. Maya was beyond ordinary. Her skill, composure, and quiet authority had carried them through a trial that had tested every limit. And though the night was over, her story was far from finished. The base settled into silence, but the recruits would not soon forget this night. And for Maya, the true measure of her success wasn't in the completion of the exercise. It was in the respect she had quietly earned, the doubts she had erased, and the unshakable presence she now held among her peers. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for tonight, Maya had proven something far more enduring, her strength, her leadership, and her unbreakable resolve. The first light of dawn stretched across the training base, casting a golden glow on the parade grounds. The night's exercises had ended, and a heavy silence hung in the air, not the tense hush of uncertainty, but the calm, reflective quiet of accomplishment. Recruits gathered their gear, exhausted, mud-streaked, muscles aching, yet hearts pounding with adrenaline and awe. Maya stood slightly apart, hands resting casually on her hips, her torn jacket draped over one shoulder. The seal trident tattoo, her symbol of past missions and lethal experience, had been glimpsed by a few during the night, leaving an impression that none of the recruits would forget. Today had not only tested skill and endurance, it had shattered assumptions and rewritten perceptions. The recruits approached her tentatively at first, unsure of how to acknowledge her. The ones who had mocked her on the first day now lowered their eyes in quiet respect, hesitant to speak at first. Others, faces flushed with excitement and amazement, began asking questions, eager to understand the person behind the calm, lethal exterior. Maya answered in small, measured words, offering guidance where necessary, teaching without condescension, commanding without force. Even the drill instructors lingered nearby, nodding subtly, recognizing the impact she had had on the group. "That girl," one murmured, shaking his head. "She's something else." Her leadership had been earned not through intimidation, not through shouting commands, but through quiet authority, skillful execution, and unwavering confidence. She had inspired the team without ever demanding admiration. The once jealous recruit approached, hesitant and uneasy. Maya met his gaze, calm and unwavering. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. He had realized that she had anticipated every challenge, every move, every hidden trap from the start. In that moment, he acknowledged her skills silently, a nod of acceptance passing between them. The rivalry that had lingered like a shadow dissolved completely. Maya's squad gathered around her, smiling through exhaustion, sharing quiet laughter for the first time. They no longer saw her as the mysterious new girl in a torn jacket, but as a leader, a mentor, and a peer they could trust implicitly. Every member of the group had been changed by the experience, their assumptions shattered, their respect earned. For Maya, the satisfaction was subtle, internal. She didn't need accolades or applause. She measured success by results, by the growth of the team, by the quiet acknowledgement of her peers. The trident tattoo, the past missions, the years of discipline, they were symbols, yes, but they were also reminders of responsibility. She had carried the weight of deadly experience, and today she had passed some of that strength, that calm, on to others. As the sun rose fully over the Pacific horizon, casting sparkling light across the water, Maya adjusted her jacket, slipping it over her shoulder. Her squad stood beside her, stronger, wiser, and inspired by the example she had set. The air was filled with a sense of completion, not the end of training, but the end of doubt, of skepticism, of underestimation. Recruits would remember this day for the rest of their careers. They would tell stories of the girl in the torn jacket, the calm presence who led them flawlessly through chaos, and the moment they realized she had been a SEAL all along. For Maya, it was not a moment of glory, but of quiet fulfillment, the kind earned through resilience, skill, and integrity. The base slowly came alive with normal morning routines, but for Maya, this day marked something lasting. Respect earned, leadership proven, and the knowledge that she had quietly changed the course of those around her. She smiled faintly, taking one last look at the rising sun, knowing the legacy of her quiet strength would linger long after the training grounds emptied. She had walked in a new recruit, laughed at, underestimated. She had left a force to be reckoned with, respected by all. And the story of Maya, the SEAL in the torn jacket, would echo for years.